Honey, why don't we ever go traveling?
Oh, darling, where is it you would like to go?
Well, I've heard the desert is quite the spectacle. What do you think about going on a trip to the desert?
All right, then the desert it is.
Oh, what the is this?
Well, it's the desert, of course. Welcome to the first ever episode of Interesting Inquisitions. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the desert and find out why 2 million people still think it's a good idea to live there. Let's find out how little you know about the desert. The Webster Dictionary states the definition of the desert as a place that receives less than 10 inches or 25 centimeters of rain in a year. So contrary to popular belief, Antarctica is considered a desert even though the whole place is covered in frozen water.
But that doesn't necessarily make sense. I mean, there's water everywhere.
What are you gonna do about it?
But why?
Because we said so, punk ass. Anyway, Antarctica is a weird place the scientists have speculated was warm somewhere around 50,000 years ago. What caused Antarctica's climate to shift? Well, Professor Herbert J. Farnsworth states, when the dinosaurs found a new hangout spot, Antarctica gave the world the cold shoulder and has yet to let up. Some say it never will. Luckily, due to climate change, mankind is showing Antarctica how to chill out. Scientists say we will have broken the ice with Antarctica in about 50 years, depending on how fast we can get that place to warm up to us. Jokes aside, Antarctica is the largest desert on the planet, stretching 5.5 million square miles compared to the Sahara, which is only 3.6 million square miles. The Sahara is comparable in size to China. Unfortunately, we don't have a size comparison for Antarctica because it's so damn big. So instead, we'll show you pictures of comically large objects. Oh, look at that one. Alright. After the Sahara, there are 33 other known deserts on Earth. Some of them having dunes that can reach up to 1,000 feet or even higher, and others having dunes that rumble just about as loud as a chainsaw. As scary as a desert is today, many scientists believe that the Sahara Desert has not always been so dry, but instead has a shifting climate that changes every 7,000 years. Unlike the Sahara Desert, the Atacama Desert has had 0 recorded rainfalls and is speculated to have been dry for the last 40 million years. Now, the desert seems like a very dry place with dangerous creatures and super harsh living conditions, but scientists believe that 6 hours of solar power from the Sahara Desert could power all of Europe for a year. The only problem is the maintenance and installation of solar panels in the desert, because who the fuck wants to live there? Death Valley, California is often considered one of the hottest places on Earth, so naturally, people set up a city 2 hours away and stayed, for whatever reason. But don't worry, Americans aren't the only ones that are crazy. About 2 million people live in the Sahara Desert today, most of them being nomadic people because living in the desert is hard as hell. But to Patrick Bauer, the desert is just a stepping stone on his road to godliness, because in 1984 he decided to cross the Sahara Desert on foot. This journey took him 12 days without passing a single town or oasis, and when he was asked why he did it, all he had to say was, during my 2 years in Africa, I had crossed the Sahara 5 to 6 times by car. I wanted to cross on my own, on foot. 2 years later, he created Marathon des Sables, where people travel the same path he did for years to come. Why? If you ever become inspired by Patrick Bauer, then you might happen upon a very eerie sight. In the desert of Egypt, you can find 700 rows of seats, all facing a movie screen in the middle of nowhere. As terrifying as this looks, nobody knows the true story as to what happened to this open theater. In the 1990s, Frenchman Diane Edel built a cinema near the south tip of Egypt. The first showing was supposed to be a 1997 viewing of Jurassic Park, but mysteriously, the event never took place. What is even more puzzling is that Din Edel won't speak to anyone about it, not even close friends or family. What do you think happened here? Lots of things have been found in the desert, and one of the most notable finds was some of the first dinosaur bones and eggs that were discovered in Mongolia's Gobi Desert in 1923 by Roy Chapman Andrews. At the time, they had no idea what species of dinosaur they had just discovered, so they decided upon the name Oviraptor, which means egg thief or egg Caesar. Other discoveries in the desert include Libyan desert glass. This is desert sand flash melted by meteors, discovered by Aaron Cavesio and his professor, Christian Koberl from the University of Vienna. Okay, whatever. Namda stone. The Namda stone is a sculpture scientists believe is the first astronomical site older than Stonehenge, discovered by anthropologist Fred Windorf. Ratchet structure. The Eye of Sahara is a circular geological formation that is about 25 miles in diameter. This was discovered by James McDivitt and Edward White in 1965. The structure was so big we could not even see it until we started to explore space. That's fucking big. The Dead Sea Scrolls. In 2021, Muhammad and Muhammad found dozens of new fragments in the Dead Sea Scroll in a desert cave. These fragments are believed to have been hidden there since the Bar Kokhba revolt. Okay, anyways, lots of people go to the desert looking for things like artifacts or fossils, but for Dick Curtis and his 13 associates, all they wanted was a location for their lifelong dream of a living and breathing movie set. So he did exactly that. Dick Curtis and his 13 associates, in 1946, gathered $7,000 to establish Pioneer Town. This place was a functional 1880s themed town that was easily accessible from both Los Angeles and Palm Springs. Some of the first structures established here were the Red Dog Saloon, Maggie's Feed Barn, Nell's Ice Cream Place, the Clip and Curl Beauty Shop, Trigger Bill's Shooting Gallery, and Pioneer Liquor. But it's not spelled like liquor, so I can only assume this is where you'd go to get professionally licked. If you ever decide to visit Pioneer Town, because it's an actual location where real life people live on a real life Western movie set, be aware that you cannot drive your car through town because the only traffic allowed is either foot or horse traffic. But this is all for good reason, because some masterpieces were filmed on this living and breathing Western set. Some of these films include The Valiant Hombre, The Gay Amigo, The Cowboy and the Indian, Satan's Cradle, Beyond the Purple Hill, Cody of the Pony Express, The Capture, On Top of Old Smoky, Jeopardy, Last of the Pony Riders, Buffalo Bill Jr., Judge Roy Bean, The Rainmaker, 26 Men, The 19th Hole, Kane's Cutthroat, The Life and Time of Judge Roy Bean, The China Lake Murders, CYXORK 7, The Last Western, Bulletproof, Becoming Bulletproof, The Gambler of Dust and Bones, and last but most certainly not least, Ice Cube's music video, I Rep the West. We should play a little bit of that music. No, I'll get copyrighted. Also, if you ever go to Pioneer Town's website, they end their article with a little winky face, like the typed out winky face that you have to physically type in with the semicolon and the thingy, the circle thingy. I still don't know how I feel about it. Moving on. If you've ever been on Google Earth scrolling through the desert like any other mentally stable young adult in 2024, then you might have found one of these weird target-looking things. If you ever wondered what they are, well, they're just some aerial image calibration targets set up in the mid-1960s used by the CIA to calibrate spy satellites. So, before you start going into conspiracy theories, in the 15th century, people were encountering the cactus known as Cylindra frugida, or jumping cactus. Not knowing any better, people thought this plant would launch itself at you for disturbing the peace of the desert. And there was a common fear of them until someone realized that they don't actually jump. The jumping cactus is a very fragile plant and will break off easily. Because of this, many people would end up getting stuck by its sharp spikes and not realizing until later that the cactus had attached themselves. Many desert animals have misconceptions about them, like the lemming. To this day, people believe lemmings throw themselves off cliffs, but that's fake. That comes from a scene from a 1958 Disney's nature documentary called White Wilderness. Another misconception is the century plant, which people thought only bloomed once every 100 years, or the redback spider. People commonly mistake this spider for the American black widow and often refer to it as an extremely deadly spider, but only about 10 to 20% of its victims are ever affected. That is nothing in comparison to the yellow scorpion. scorpion, also known as the death stalker. This is considered the most dangerous scorpion in South America, causing difficulty breathing, swallowing, restlessness, seizures, muscle twitching, irregular heartbeat, high blood pressure, and abdominal pain. The death stalker also holds several benefits, including anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory properties. The more you know. Unlike the yellow scorpion, Africanized bees, popularly known as killer bees, offer no benefit to mankind and only exist to watch mankind burn. This is what happens when you try to play God. Killer bees come from a crossbreeding experiment to improve honey production. The result was a species of bee that hates humans and has a recorded death total of over 1,000 to date. Who allowed this to happen? Why can't we just be happy with what we have and stop trying to make everything better? Taking a break from the awful mistakes of mankind, we have this cute little guy. He's known as the Jeroboa. Just look at him. He's just a cute little guy. Camel. The Colorado River toad. This ordinary-looking frog excretes highly toxic poisons on their legs and corners of their mouth. If you lick this frog, you could die. I don't know why you would do that, but don't. Now I'm not responsible. Datura is a beautiful white flower with psychoactive effects. And you know what that means. Mydriasis, sinus tachycardia, hyperexia, disease bowel activity, urinary retention, impaired short-term memory, and hallucination. This plant belongs to the nightshade family and goes by many names. Other names for Datura are thorn apple, Jimson weed, devil trumpet, mad apple, moonflower, devil's weed, and hell's bell. Another plant you should stop trying to eat is Sassafras revolta, or the sago palm. If you do happen to eat this plant, you should flip a coin, because those are your odds of survival. 50% of people who eat this plant end up with liver failure, in a coma, or worse, so stop trying to eat it. Not every plant you find in the desert is bad. Take castor beans, for example. Ricinus communis is a source of castor oil, which has a variety of uses, from laxatives to get out all the nasty desert foliage that you've been eating, or a nice hair treatment. Also, castor beans are toxic if ingested. Kinda like chinberry, which is also poisonous if ingested. Or like nerum, also known as oleander, which is also poisonous if ingested. Much like oleander, hemlock is also poisonous, but it is part of the carrot family. That is different. Let's move on to this cute little guy. The screaming hairy armadillo has recently petitioned for a new name, but nobody will listen on account of how small and ugly they are. I mean, just look at that. The Bactrian camel. It's a big camel. Vultures are a common sight in the desert because where there's death, there's vultures. And there's a lot of death in the desert. Like, a lot of death in the desert. The giant hairy scorpion. This scorpion is not very venomous, but that's no matter. Because if you see this thing and you don't shit bricks, then there's something severely wrong with you. This scorpion can get up to 14 centimeters long and looks like your last mistake. Sticking to big bugs, we have the giant desert centipede, or the Scolopendra heros, which can get up to 8 inches long. They can grow up to 23 pairs of legs, and if they bite you, it can cause sharp pain, swelling, but it has never caused death yet. Cougars! Yeah, that's right, we got cougars in the desert. No, definitely not that kind of cougar. Sand cat! They're just like cats, but in the sand. Muskox. They're stinky. Armadillo-girdled liard, otherwise known as a baby dragon. Thorny devils. These creatures are terrifying, but I want one. I didn't think they were real at first, but the thorny dragon is lined with spikes and can change its color to blend into its surroundings. It even can absorb water from any surface on its body, and if it gets scared, then it puffs itself up to look big. And it even has a false head as a defense mechanism on its shoulders. Their preferred diet is ant, but I would honestly love to see a thorny devil try to catch the Sahara silver ant. This ant is commonly known as the fastest ant alive, being able to run 40.5 inches in a second. That means it can run at the speed of 400 miles per hour. For reference, a cheetah runs 50 to 80 miles per hour. I'm gonna let that sink in. On the topic of fast animals, we have the ostrich. These birds can run 43 miles an hour to make up for the fact that they can't fly. They're pissed about it. Trust me, if you ever run into an ostrich, they'll definitely release the years of pent-up rage out on you. Gala monster! They don't even try to move fast. These lizards are one of the laziest lizards you can find. Not only is it venomous, so it barely has to try to take out its victims, it also preserves fat in its tail for the winter, so it can cuddle up in a nice crack and relax. Compared to all these animals, the sidewinding snake has to be one of the scariest. There are three specific species commonly known as sidewinding snake. The difference between sidewinders and other snakes is they're packed with the devil to become smarter and faster than their kin. These snakes are also venomous, but not usually fatal to humans. These guys, on the other hand, can be lethal to a healthy adult. The horned viper emits a rattling sound when it feels threatened and can easily be identified by its horn. This also has to be the coolest snake in the desert. Prove me wrong. Often cited as the world's most venomous snake, the inland taipan is a dangerous boop noodle. One bite from the inland taipan can cause headache, nausea, abdominal pain, collapse, paralysis. But just look at that little guy and keep looking at him, because the candelabras cactus, or the Euphorbia lacti, is a poisonous cactus that looks like it's from The Last of Us. This cactus can grow to a height of 15 feet, but is typically maintained as a 1 to 2 foot houseplant. Why? By who? Who's keeping this poisonous cactus in their house as a houseplant? What's wrong with you? Ugh! By now, you should know the desert is a strange place. I bet that's what Bronwyn Bell and Stephen Getson were thinking whenever they discovered fairy circles. These unexplained circles that can appear in the ground with a diameter of about 2 meters and a lifespan of about 70 years, usually lined with knee-high grass, but will have no vegetation growing inside of them. We still have no idea what exactly causes them to appear. Some deserts will sporadically bloom into lush gardens. The most common example of this is in the Atacama Desert, famously known as the desert in bloom. This phenomenon is known as El Nino, is the alignment of conditions that create short-term rainfall which causes the desert to bloom. Wonderful. That harmonic vibration is heard as many oh my god. This harmonic vibration is heard in many deserts around the world, commonly referred to as singing sands. This sound is a result of avalanching grains of sand vibrating back and forth. This phenomenon has caused many people around the world to form beliefs. Some Native Americans believe that dunes were living creatures that roared at them. Other stories talk about how people would even disappear into dunes, falling through a crater at the top. And I can't blame them. If I was in the desert and out of nowhere I heard sand start singing sweet nothings to me, I would not be staying for dinner. In 2015, Sammy Lacorte discovered 3.3 million year old stool. In 2015, Sammy Lacorte discovered 3.3 million year old stone tools in Kenya. The tools are years older than similar artifacts found in Ethiopia and predate mankind by 500,000 years. The desert, being an arid climate, is great for preserving fossils, which is why so many archaeological discoveries have been made there. Many people believe that the desert is a place full of activity, not only from our ancient ancestors, but from extraterrestrial beings. If you've ever heard of the Roswell report, then you know what I'm talking about. Many people believe that this 1994 Air Force report, also known as the Roswell report, exposed the existence of aliens in the New Mexico desert, and that there was some kind of cover-up to hide this information from the masses. To date, there's been no evidence proving this to be anything more than a conspiracy theory. Many people also believe that Area 51 has been hiding aliens for years. Area 51 was created during the Cold War to assist America's development of aircraft to take down the Soviet Union. Today, it is nothing more than a testing and training site for the United States Air Force. The only strange information I have found about Area 51 is the fact that workers do not commute there by car. Instead, the United States government sends employees in and out on a passenger jet under the name of Janet Airlines. Janet Airlines? Really? The last theory about aliens in the desert I will mention today comes from the appearance of strange monoliths in the desert in 2020. Some believe these obelisks come from out of this world. Others believe that they're simply a relic from an ancient civilization more advanced than our own. I know for sure that there's a couple of YouTubers out there that make these things for fun and stick them out in the woods, but I would love to hear your guys' opinions. Something even stranger than weird shiny statues in the wild are instructions from Venus to build a time machine in the desert. For backstory, the Integratron is a 38-foot tall cupola structure designed by Ufologist in 1958. Van Tessel claimed that the Integratron was capable of rejuvenation, anti-gravity, and even time travel. He built a replica in California following instructions he claimed were provided by visitors from Venus. He then proceeded to float into the air, grow 20 years younger, and even traveled back in time to play hopscotch with Jesus Christ. Obviously, the thing didn't work. If Vaughn ever did go back in time, I would ask him if he learned anything about the lost oasis of Zezura. This oasis is a legend that most people believe never actually existed. Based on accounts from living people in Dukla Oasis, Egypt, directions to the lost oasis are 5 or 6 days west from the road to Farafeh. Is another oasis called Wadi Zezura, also known as Zezra. The oasis is said to have been found by a nomad in search of a lost sheep. Some legends even state that the oasis was inhabited and full of lush greenery. If you ever decide to go looking for the lost oasis of Zezura, be careful, because many deserts are home to a terrifying Navajo legend that many believe is true to this day. I bet that just by mentioning Navajo legend, many of you know that the last desert topic we're talking about today are skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are harmful witches from Navajo culture. They are said to go entirely against Navajo culture and are often depicted vandalizing Navajo rituals. Skinwalkers are evil beings who will not directly go after their victims. Instead, these witches will bestow curses or even poison their targets. Most commonly, skinwalkers are known for their ability to don the skin of an animal and then shapeshift into said animal. Skinwalkers are everywhere on the internet and becoming more and more popular in recent years. What do you guys think? Are skinwalkers real? Does Area 51 hide aliens? Should you stop eating random plants in the desert? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and thanks for watching. Peace out. Thanks for watching the video today. If you are still here watching this, Interesting Inquisitions is a video idea I've been mowing back and forth on for a while. I want to just pick a topic on the internet and do a deep dive into it and kind of explore information and pass it along to you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and you maybe think about subscribing. Definitely comment below. I'd love to hear what theories you guys have about some of the things I talked about in this video. Thanks for stopping by. You have a wonderful day.